Hi, my name is Star Martinez and I will be serving as your instructor today. This training will go over one of the many prevalent interventions, which is, in this instance, resolving intergroup conflict. We'll be learning about the intergroup conflict and what role you can play in successfully resolving intergroup conflict. Today's course outline is as follows: the definition and the purpose of resolving intergroup conflict, features, the strengths and weaknesses, application scenario, and references. Intergroup conflict refers to any disagreement or confrontation between the members of at least two different groups within an organization. There are several types of beliefs that commonly lead to intergroup conflict. These include superiority, injustice, vulnerability, distrust, and helplessness. Nickerson, 2022. Intervention of intergroup conflict benefits the organization by ensuring that every employee is participating at their full potential in their role and responsibilities. By an employee being involved in a conflict, they are most likely not providing their full support or attention to collaborating with the other group in which they conflict with. This may hinder project progress and delay reaching the organization's goals. A minute, an hour, or day that an employee stalls or delays in collaborating with the group they conflict with is time an employee is not performing at their best capacity for the organization. Therefore, it is in the organization's best interest to resolve the intergroup conflict as quickly as possible. The purpose of this training is to provide you the necessary information to recognize intergroup conflict, resolve intergroup conflict, and foster a workplace environment that provides employees with the tools necessary to contribute to the overall goal of resolving intergroup conflict. In the event you are faced with mediating or addressing an intergroup conflict, here are a few steps to follow towards addressing the issue. First is acknowledging a conflict exists and needs to be addressed. Second, restating the purpose and goals of each group or team. Third, allowing both sides to vent their grievances so that both sides and you as a mediator understand the full nature of the conflict. 4, brainstorm for a solution as a group. 5, develop an action plan for both teams and have both teams sign acknowledging the action plan and its demands. It is also very important to foster a culture where employees can work towards healthy resolution of conflicts. Dr. Rolfe recommended the following strategies to use to foster a positive culture where employees are trained to work together to resolve conflict. The first example is have fun together and create shared experiences. Having fun and sharing a laugh is a great way to decrease stress. Encourage expression of gratitude towards each other. Create shared goals so that groups work together to achieve an outcome. Discuss with the staff the arbitrary nature of groups to decrease tensions. You may wish to use the robber's cave experiment as an example, or demonstrate it yourself by creating groups on the basis of eye color or football team preferences. Establish or reinforce commonalities between groups. For example, establish a shared space where everyone can debrief at the end of the day. Remove differences such as uniform difference between groups where possible. Introduce cross-work visits if tensions exist between people who have different roles or work in different locations. Strengths and weaknesses. Intergroup conflict that causes confrontation or negative interaction between the groups harm the organizations by delaying the goals and objectives. It is inevitable for the human race to avoid group association, which eventually may result in negative interaction with other groups. Therefore, how can we identify these beginnings of negative interactions? Resolve the intergroup conflict. Signs of intergroup conflict or tensions are members making statements such as the following. They are just trying to pawn off their work on us. That is not our responsibility. They should be doing that. Why are we always the ones given all the work while they sit around and do nothing? I am tired of having to fix all of their mistakes. According to Rolfe, typically intergroup conflicts or tensions arise in the workplace when group members see themselves as more alike, more highly skilled, or harder working than the other group. This is a way to differentiate themselves from the other group, which may act, think, behave, look, or dress differently. Causes for intergroup conflict. Managerial expectations. Managers are expected to communicate individual goals for each employee, so the employee understands their expected individual contributions to the organization. Breakdown in communication. Interdepartmental disagreement can trigger non-responsive attitude. Misunderstanding the information. One person may misunderstand information, such as their individual or group goals. Lack of accountability. Frustration is the result of lack of accountability from other groups or departments. Whatever the underlying reason is, it is important for every employee to recognize their role, to not agree or continue to feed into the discussion about another group. Each employee is expected to work for the organization, carry their own weight in roles and responsibilities, and contribute towards the organization's goals. If a person feels that another employee is failing to comply with their contribution to the organization and it is hindering their own success, this should be addressed with the direct manager or escalated to upper leadership as appropriate. Strengths and weaknesses continued. Resolving intergroup conflict. Here are a few approaches to resolving the intergroup conflict. Common goal. If groups that are working together have differing goals for the project, it can be beneficial to set a goal for the whole team that may be only achieved by all groups working together. This should be tied to the most important aspects of the project in case the conflict resumes shortly after the goal is reached. Demonstration. Executives and upper leadership employees should focus on fairness and ethical behavior, especially when approaching and giving feedback to the team or in employee-facing situations. This will allow employees to see the dedication and amplify these characteristics. The third, open communication. Encouraging employees to speak up if there is something they disagree with. Reminding employees that the team is all united to work for the good of the company and ensuring that everyone understands the value that they and their coworkers add to the company will create open lines of communication that can stop conflict quickly. Avoidance. Avoidance does not resolve the underlying conflict, but it may allow a group to work together for a time by simply working around the conflict. It can also allow the group to achieve a purpose that reorients them to the original goal. And lastly, authoritative command should only be used in a minor conflict that cannot be resolved through other processes, but can be avoided through a decision based on management. It will not resolve the conflict, but will help the team know what their next steps should be to push through and accomplish the goal or the project. It is critically important to classify conflict into a particular type on the basis of its scale and nature, not only to disambiguate its intensity, but also to employ the most appropriate approach to handle it effectively. This is June 2018. The application of scenario is, I'm going to set the stage for it, and then we will go over what exactly took place in the scenario, which is on this slide. The call center department staff are upset that they are experiencing high call rate due to the inaccurate information posted on the organization's website. The call center manager, Cindy, sent 3 emails to the website department manager, Mike, to correct this error. She explained the incorrect information has caused an influx of calls, causing their queues to exceed the 3-minute hold times for all calls. 2 weeks have passed, and the website is still incorrect. And calls have not gone down due to the incorrect information. Cindy escalates this complaint to the Director of Operations, whose name is Wendy. Wendy schedules a meeting for both departments to meet. She asks both sides to bring documentation supporting both sides of their argument. At the meeting, Wendy starts the meeting by proposing the agenda topics. Wendy will provide a refresher of each department's purpose and goals. Wendy lays the rules for the organization's policy for a mediating meeting, which are to be respectful. Keep a level tone when speaking. Do not interrupt when someone is speaking. Use of raising hands to request permission to speak, and that every person in the room is required to provide their perspective of the conflict and at least one possible solution. Cindy and her team start since they were the first team to escalate the issue to leadership. And after Cindy, Mike and his team will have the opportunity to speak. And the 5th item on the agenda is proposed solutions by every participant in the meeting. And 6, next steps will be documented. The discussion provided insight that Mike had escalated the website information discrepancy to the appropriate policy staff that drafted the language. He was waiting for policy to respond with the approval to delete the language or revise the language. Mike acknowledged he failed to communicate clearly with the call center about his efforts with policy. Wendy informed Mike and Cindy she would be working with policy to get a response by COB the next day. Both teams appreciated the open discussion and recognized each other's contribution to the organization's goals. This last slide is a reference or collection of all of the references that were used in creating this training. Thank you for watching, and you have a wonderful day.